All right, hello everyone. Thank you so much in advance for taking time to invest in yourself and learn with me on today's show. I've got a very important guest. He's a friend and a business partner of mine, and his name is John Ellis. And here in a second, I'm gonna let him introduce himself. But just to give you a little bit of context, John and I met each other a little while back. I want to say over a decade ago in Jackson, Tennessee, and ever since the first time I met him, the energy was contagious. His knowledge was something that was so insightful. It was unlike anything I've ever heard before. And even today, if you fast forward to 2024, for those that you don't know him, I challenge you to, when you get off this episode, go look and follow John. I mean, the information that he gives is so insightful, not just on what our topic is today around EVs, but really everything, both EVs, ICE, hybrids, and the like. So I'm not going to take too much of his thunder. So without further ado, let me introduce my friend and partner, John Ellis. How you doing, sir?
Hey, Duran, good to be here, my friend. Yeah, we've been together for a long time. I'm excited for our journey.
Yeah, likewise. And so to get right into it, because we know everybody's time is valuable, give us a little background on yourself, some history, and how you even got in the automotive industry.
Yeah, I was fortunate. I had a career before automotive for about 18 years in technology, telecommunications, and then in early 2000s, around 2003, I landed in automotive with Autotrader.com. So I actually had to start on the ground again and start selling products. I was leading at executive level management in telecom. So I got to be in dealerships, learn from the ground up, what made them tick, how we could help them, what their operations look like. Moved my way up through Auto Trader, all through the Cox organization, 17 years with Cox, spent a couple years with Toyota running their fixed ops division. So I've really been blessed to see an automotive operational acumen from the OEM side and the vendor side. And the vendor side gave me lens into inventory management, Mannheim. I spent 5 years with Mannheim learning all there is to know about the backside. Went to NADA Academy, got to through Cox Automotive, so I got P&L certified in dealer operations. And then these last 2 years at Cox, I was so fortunate to be put into their EV battery solutions division when we bought a company that did nothing but remanufacture, refurbish, and recycle EV batteries. So I learned that side of the business from really the battery chemistry, architecture, technology, and then started opening up, a vision for me for the future.
And I want to piggyback on that because thinking about that vision, the vision of EVs, the future, and it's contagious because I'll be honest, it's what it drew me to you was about the excitement and the energy that you have for EVs, no pun intended. And so, but talk to us, where did that come from? Like, did it just happen a few years ago, or did it go back before that time?
Yeah, it's a great question because we've had an EV for 10 years. So we've had a Tesla Model S. My father was an early adopter, and these things were 180, $220,000 at the time, and he invested in one, and I helped him purchase it, and I kept it for a while. He kept it for a while. We've had a couple of things we had to do technology wise, and I've invested in time to teach him how to do it, and to get so I learned a lot early on about these EVs and how go-to-market strategy was first adopted by Tesla. And I've just watched it over the years. And then I've owned a few EVs myself since then. I have a Tesla Model 3 Performance, and I'm just in love with their performance and then the fuel savings and all the fun things. And look, some limitations too, but I've learned to adapt. And so I see a future for automotive retail with this electronic powertrain, this new transformed powertrain that I hope we can bring dealers to a better place of profitability and to have more impact in the decisioning in their OEM world. And I think we can do that together. So I got real excited about ownership, then about the battery itself, about how learning all the different chemistries and how they're advancing by the week, pretty much. And then, of course, um, then I thought turned to the dealer and said, "Wow, there's a place we can help."
Okay, so and I'm going to piggyback on that a little bit because thinking of as a dealer, so I'm going to put my dealer hat on.
Yeah.
And a question I would have for you, and I've heard some of the clients that we've spoken to before, and even clients that I've consulted with before, is like, what is the good news about EVs? Because there's a lot of
Mm.
negative news that's out there about how terrible things are. You got politics and all this stuff, but what's the good news that's going on with EVs right now?
Yeah, so I would encourage folks to follow you and I on LinkedIn and Facebook. We have a BEV Everything LinkedIn and LinkedIn page. You can follow me personally. We talk about this a lot because there is a lot of negative publicity about EVs. And really, that's driven by fear and emotion, not logic and math. And so, yes, do EVs have limits? Yes, of course, but so do ICE engines. And I'll give you a great example. Right now, we're hearing a lot about dead EVs in cold climates.
Yeah.
Well, the studies show that EVs are a lot more reliable when they're warm as an ICE engine when they're warm in a cold climate. And people that buy ICE engines in cold climates like Antarctica and other get a heater sold to them as well to heat their vehicle up to start it. Same thing with an electric vehicle. You need to heat it up before you start it, precondition it. It won't die on you. Sure, some of the charging stations went down because of other utility problems with the cold weather, not the charging station. Guess what? Gas stations have the same problem in sub zero temperature as well. So I really think of the negative PR that we're hearing is really about people who say, it's happening too fast. I don't understand it. I need more information before I can commit to any kind of discovery on my part. And that's fair. I like that. That is where we want to live in truth and transparency. But what's happening is people are feeding off that negative narrative and running down the path of what we call myths and misconceptions. So at the BEV Everything, as you know, our job is to help kind of clear that path, right? Bring logic and reason into that, and then help dealers understand that conversation so they don't get fearful. They can really have a anxiety-free, confident conversation and determine what the best path is for that shopper.
You know what's wild, and you don't even know this, John, but I'm gonna bring something up that I didn't even plan to talk about, but you triggered something. So to John's point, a lot of news has been really negative around EVs with the winter storm that just came through. So if you're watching this and it's August 2024, 2025 right now, just to give you some context, at the beginning of January or mid-January 2024, literally one of the wildest winter storms swept across pretty much most of the United States. And so here where I'm at in Memphis, Tennessee, we got pounded with snow. We got pounded
Okay.
with ice. I mean, it shut it down. Well, my wife's vehicle, the SUV that she drives, it is an ICE, and I took her vehicle to get some groceries, and I got to load up. We've got 4 kids. I just posted about plants, so when I do it, I mean, I've got to get gallons upon gallons of fruits, vegetables, all this stuff because these kids are going through it like water. Well, I go in there to get the groceries, and when I come out of the supermarket, the farmer's market where I was at, lo and behold, I hit the push button starting her vehicle, gone, dead. So I call the tow truck guy because so I end up having to get my truck. So she ends up meeting me, pulls my truck up. I get the cables out, so see if that'll help out. Next thing you know, call the tow company, and the guy comes out there and he says, "Buddy, you got a dead battery. It's too cold. The cold ruined." Keep in mind, her vehicle's just a couple years old, and he's like, "Man, this is like the 18th call I've had today on an ICE engine battery." And so then from there, I had to go take the vehicle, get it to an AutoZone or something like that so I could buy the battery. Then they couldn't
Mm.
actually put it on because they needed special tools. So then I had to go to another shop. I won't say which one. So I go to that shop because the dealerships are all shut down. And so, to long story short, it took days to actually get our vehicle back to get it done with the storm. So I say all that to John's point. I feel like sometimes we isolate the EV issues when a lot of the issues that we run into with EVs are very similar to what ends up happening with an ICE vehicle. And so I just thought that was really interesting that you brought that up because I guarantee you somebody else is listening to this and they probably ran into the same situation where their ICE vehicle, their engine that they have, or maybe it's even a hybrid, whatever, when that battery is gone or it's dead, it's dead. There is no recharging it. There is no filling it up and hooking it up. There is no complaining that it's going to take 2 or 3 hours. No, you're going to spend two, three, four, maybe $500 trying to get that thing serviced. So glad you brought that up. So I'm gonna pivot it though to when we think about the biggest concerns about EVs that dealers have, what are those concerns that they have, and then what are the solutions or what are the opportunities that you believe in for those concerns?
Yeah, they're different than our concerns. as an automotive dealer, and we have many of those clients like Carter Myers Automotive Group, Walt Massey Automotive Group, and many other large groups, as well as single rooftops that we work with, we hear their concerns, and their biggest concerns are the day supply of EVs are rising in their lots. It's
Yeah.
harder and harder to sell them, and it's really a impacted by what we just talked about. People get scared because of misinformation and run from something that really they should have more opportunity to learn and educate themselves on, which starts at the dealer level. The OEMs should be doing it. They're really not. And so we at BEV Everything, we help the dealer do it, both in their marketing, their advertising, Duran, because you're a big part of this as well.
Yeah.
But also in their in-store, we train leaders, we train their folks to how to market, YouTube, Facebook, all the things. Hey, we understand they're not for everybody. And we get it that it's only 6% of your P&L, maybe less than that. But it's coming, and you have a lot building up as your day supply. So with affordability, as it is, and ICE engines and EVs are now by segment are getting right on top of each other in cost and price. So they're affordable now.
Yeah.
Is that let's use our affordability issues and the economy and the incentives to shrink that day supply. Now the question is, how do we do that? Because they have not been able to do it yet. And it's everything we just said. Get the word out, let everybody know that you're an education center, an experience center as a dealer, and that you don't expect them to come and buy an EV right away, but let's talk about it. Let's get anxieties on the table. Let's see how we can help determine if an EV is a fit for you. And if it's not, great. We don't want it to be. It needs to be. But once it is, you'll have a great experience because we're going to teach you how to buy, own, and drive this EV in a way that's going to keep you very well. My camera moves a little bit when I did.
Sure do.
It's going to keep you very well covered. So it's all good, right? So we're excited about the opportunity for dealers to take ownership and leadership in this space.
All right, maybe the camera might adjust back a little
Yeah,
bit. I'm gonna see. I'm gonna move myself over to the
yeah. You
right
go to the
and see
left
if that.
side.
There we go. Well, it's still.
Uh-oh. Yeah, isn't that
you
funny?
might have to. You might have to slide over a little bit here in a little
Yeah,
bit. We'll
I
wait till it.
will. No problem.
There we
Yeah.
go. All right. Well then, I'm gonna piggyback on another thing then. So putting a hat back on. Let's say me as a dealer, I am encouraged by EVs, or I'm at least intrigued by it. And I see there's some opportunity, but my leadership team and my sales team, they're not really behind it. What would you suggest for those dealerships? Like, what's the step that owner should take?
Yeah, that's a great question. So first of all, the biggest challenge is how to start,
Yeah,
right? And that's where we found most dealers who aren't down the path already need the most help. It's we don't even know where to start, so we're in paralysis mode, paralysis by analysis. So
yeah,
the biggest thing is first is get with a company like ours to determine what are others doing that are successful. How can we be successful too? And once we figure that out, um, then we need to execute. And with the right partners, we can start with a mapped out program that gives them confidence that it's been utilized and it works. It's not overtaxing to the organization. It's not overtaxing to the expense structure, but it starts the process of preparing them for the next step in EV, we call retail transformation. Again, small part of the P&L, we understand it, but it's coming. And we're going to see some growth, and I think we'll talk about that later in the podcast in the next few years. So excited about that.
okay. And in this one, and I'm gonna piggyback on your response on this because you know my passion here, but Um, what do you think about awareness? Because I know some dealers are probably listening to this, and let's say they're across the South, they're Mississippi, wherever their location is. They're thinking about, okay, John, Duran, this all sounds great, beautiful. Where are my customers at? How do I bring customers in to even create awareness for EVs to for them to show up? Because I've got cars sitting on my lot, they're rotting, they're just sitting there. Where are my customers at, and what do you recommend?
Yeah, so another really good question. So the customers are everywhere. They're your neighbors. They are the people you see in the grocery store. Okay, so the if you read any automotive literature, you know that the amount of curiosity in this space is undeniable. So um, 73% of shoppers say they're interested in researching an EV for their next vehicle purchase. It doesn't mean they're going to buy one, but they're interested. So how do you become the resource center for all of those intenders, we call them, to think of you first when they want to come and learn more about an electric vehicle and see if it fits their lifestyle? And so that's the marketing that we do. Your people are your biggest marketers. But more important than that is building the confidence, the acumen that when they walk in the store, these
Hmm.
intenders we're talking about, that you're able to have a conversation with them where they go, okay, this is a trusted advisor that's very knowledgeable. I know a lot, but I can tell they know a lot, and they're going to help me guide myself through this journey of discovery. And so it all goes hand in hand. You do not want to go out there and sell a few EVs and try to get your name out there, sell them to the wrong people, or more importantly, sell them and then have people come in asking more questions and you can't answer them. So this is not a transaction. This is a journey. It's not the same thing as an ICE engine. So it's very important that we uh, build brand awareness for the electric vehicle, but then secure your brand loyalty with doing it the right way. And that's what we help you do at BEV Everything.
Oh, that's good. And what I'm going to add to that, because I love using this personal story, is one of the best ways to create awareness after our teams are good. You know, we want to make sure that our
Mhm.
teams are well educated and prepared, because one of the worst things to do to create awareness is we sell a customer an EV that had no business getting an EV in the first place. So we
Mhm.
have to back up, make sure that we're asking the right questions. And it's no different than when we're selling ICE or hybrid. We've got to ask the right questions, because we might talk to some people that currently are looking at a gas vehicle, and based on what they say, an EV might be best for them, and then flip flop. But after the team has been educated, to John's point, in order to create awareness, one of the easiest ways is through social media. And I say
Mhm.
that because there's not enough dealer made content around EVs. There's enough of from OEMs, there's a lot from influencers out there, but the actual dealer, it's huge for them to have a presence
Yes.
on social, but also have that same presence on their website. Because here in a couple of days, we'll be talking, and we'll share this some kind of way on YouTube. But we'll be doing a clubhouse discussion on this as well. But recently there was a study that talked about EV shoppers are going to a lot of third party websites to get their EV information. But when regular shoppers are looking for a vehicle, a lot of them are going to the dealership website. So there's a gap between shoppers that are look on EVs going to third parties versus going to dealers. And I believe one of the big reasons for that is there's just not enough resources on the dealership's website. So I want to encourage you, another way to create awareness, and it's a perfect time, is because the more content that you can put on your website and on social, you'll organically get some traffic in there on Google, and you won't have to pay for it. That's the most beautiful thing. So every
That's a
dealer, I'm
big
sure, is
one.
looking for, how can I increase profitability, without having to spend more ad dollars. And that way is easily through video search engine optimization, and then also optimizing your website. So I'd encourage you, have the team, have your staffing ready for it first, and then open up the floodgates of educating your customers. Because I think I even heard Andrew or somebody on the team say, it's not we're really not selling EVs anymore. We're just educating and giving an experience to customers and finding
Mhm.
out what works best for them. So, as I only have about two more questions left, and they're really combined, is when you look at 2024, John, what do you see in terms of EVs, and what that's going to do to the auto industry and the dealer body as a whole? And then after 2024, so when we get into 2025, we're after the
Mhm.
elections, right? It's going to be
Yeah.
interesting. What do you see in 2025 and beyond?
Well, I love the way Liza puts it. We have political winds of change every 4 years, right? Most of the time, sometimes 8 years. In this scenario, we're way down the road. The train has left the station. So at this point, we're pretty assured that the efforts you're putting in here are going to have its impact from years to come without a major pullback. Now, we
Mm,
understand that everybody uh, on one side and the other side use this as a political tool, but don't let that get in cloud your vision of really what the future is going to look like. We had insurmountable growth last year with EVs, and we finished the year right at around 10%. We're certainly at 10% adoption in January. It looks like we're going to be somewhere around 13 to 15% by the end of this year.
Wow.
S&P is forecasting that we're going to grow by 63%. Our growth rate on EV adoption. That's a big number. And then projected out to 2030, it looks like anywhere from 22 to 30% adoption. 30% seems a little high to me, but I can see us in the low 20s. So if you think about how that's going to progress through your P&L and your folks and your floor traffic and your marketing, it's never been more critical for you to get started now. Look, again, we're going to tell you, BEV Everything, we are about selling one more car, whether it's an ICE engine or an electric vehicle. Our specialty, our secret sauce is electric vehicles, but we're made up of CarMax, retail operators,
Mhm.
independent media folks, all in the automotive industry, prior vendors. We know automotive retail inside and out. So we're going to help you build operational acumens in every department, acquisition, appraisal, marketing, retail, finance, and service. That's what we do at BEV Everything. Plenty of companies out there help you, bring content and do some, specific training about things that are more content driven. We bring content and training together to help your people have the conversations that we're talking about here today to determine if an EV is the right fit for the customer they're sitting in front of. If it's not, they don't need to sell it because you'll get the articles like we saw in automotive news this week where someone said their Ford Lightning was the worst car they ever bought. Well, it was probably because they thought it could do things it couldn't do. So that's the point, or weren't taught how to behave with that vehicle to have a great ownership experience. And it can be done. So the point is, yeah, specifically, the future is bright and electric for electric vehicles, and it's only going to get better. It looks to this point like the government has given all they want to give, and probably more than they should. I agree that we push demand too fast, but we've got some great incentives this year. Cash on the hood, point of sale credits. Don't not be able to transact at that level, but don't transact at that level for cash only because you're gonna hurt your brand and you're gonna create a bad CSI experience for your customer. Transact at that experience if the customer fits the purchase, and then you have a great opportunity not only to have a affordable vehicle, but maybe a profitable vehicle for you as well.
Oh yeah, no, that's good. And you touched on so much, and we're not going to go too deep because I have a feeling John and I will get back together again on some other topics.
Hmm.
Because I'll tell you another big one that I would encourage everybody to join the BEV community about. That I remember texting John a couple months ago. I was like, this incentive thing is about to be huge. I mean,
That's
and
right.
we're already seeing it. Dealers are taking advantage of it. I mean, watch the Super Bowl, watch the playoffs. I mean, I'm about to get done. As soon as we get off with this, I'll turn on the TV, and I'm not even watching it to watch the sports. I'm watching it to see the messaging that the mass media is pushing. And you can even see one of the manufacturers is doing $7,500 EV bonus cash. That if
Hmm.
that doesn't get your attention for a car, $7,500. That it
Yeah.
was probably 20 to 30% of what that vehicle is. And so the next time we get together, please comment, reply back, let us know what you'd like to hear more topics
Hmm.
on or go deep on. But one thing that I would encourage all of you to go deep on is the incentives, because I'll leave it with this before I turn it back to John on anything he has to say. One of the worst things that could happen as a salesperson, and I've been there and I've felt this before, is when a customer asks you questions that you have no idea what it means or what it's about.
Mm.
There's nothing worse than customers saying, "Hey, Duran, talk to me about this $7,500 tax credit. Do I qualify for that? And what do I have to do to get it?" And just imagine as a salesperson, you're like, you know what are you talking 70? Let me go get with my manager. And then the manager says, hold on, that doesn't mean anything. You probably wouldn't qualify here. Come, well, you don't want that because we've heard stories. We just had a client, I think it was last week, talk about, it was Liza. She was talking about how a customer just talked about how well informed the team was, that's what led
Yep.
her to passing multiple dealerships to do business. And one thing I believe we would all understand and get this is that if we wanted an EV, if that's what we're going to get, it would be a complete turnoff if we connected with a store that downplayed it or actually knew nothing about it. I would gladly drive 100 to 200 miles or have that vehicle delivered to deal with people that are knowledgeable and understand what they're talking about. So I hope that resonates with many of you, as no matter what your beliefs are, because one thing that John and I have in common and the whole team is it's not about selling more EVs. It's never been about that. It's not about BEV everything, sell more EVs. It's about BEV everything helping you be prepared and stand ready for whatever customer is coming your way.
That's right.
That's what we want, and that's what we're encouraging
Mhm.
dealers. So I'll leave it with that, John. Any farewell messages you have, and then any if anybody wants to connect with you, what's the
Yeah.
best way that they could reach out?
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for having me. Yeah, I will say everything you just said, spot on. It's not about selling all EVs. Bev everything is all about having everyone in the organization comfortable with having a qualifying conversation with the customer to determine if an EV is right for them, and then learning how to use the emotion and excitement around EVs in a positive way to draw in new clients and new customers to your store. So that's pretty exciting. You can reach out to us at BEVeverything, BEVeverything.com. I'm at John at BEVeverything.com. Duran's at Duran at BEVeverything.com. Reach out to us. We'd love to talk to you. There's forms to fill out to ask questions on those. And then, of course, there's a EV community Duran was talking about that has a lot of resources. You can get questions answered on your own and really self-train if you'd like. So take advantage of that. It's a no charge. But thanks for having me. I've had a great time.
As always, well, thank you all for sharing your time with us. We hope that it was valuable. Please give us some feedback and what you'd like to hear next. And until that time, thank you all. Take care.